Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Quarbit, and welcome to a new series which will be known as the Succession Crisis. If you remember, a little while back, I made a series known as the Identity Crisis campaign, where I swapped nations every 10 years. So this will be a sort of successor or like an off-branch spin-off of that, where we will be changing countries every time our current leader dies. Now, when it comes to republics, I think what that means is if our ruler swaps out for a different republic leader, we'll have to, unfortunately, move on to the next nation. Because I think it triggers on abdication or whenever your current ruler changes. So, anyways, I'm just starting off as France here so that I could change a couple of my options here, which I've already gone ahead and done. But theoretically, if I go ahead and click this button, we should swap to the next nation. But we're going to find out. Yeah, there we go. So, now we're forced to swap over to another random tag, and we're going to find out what we're going to start off with the very first nation. Alright, we're playing as the Timurids. Isn't this a lot of fun? For those of you who are unaware of the Timurids start, essentially your leader's supposed to die like really early. Dude starts off at 67 years old. So we might start off with 2, maybe even 3 nations in the first episode. But let's see exactly how far we can get as long as the great Sultan Shah Rukh lives. I don't imagine we're going to get too far on the Timurids specifically, but we are going to at least try and do something, make the subjects a little bit happier, because as things start off with, they don't like you very much. I probably will start a war actually. Let's go ahead and rival a couple of nations here, and we'll try to find a couple of allies. How about we start off with Chagatai? Let's deal with the estates. And just like that, we've already reduced our subject's liberty desire. So it's not a bad start, but it is far from being, well, playable. And I completely forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, but actually, I did decide that we'll be role-playing a little bit for these campaigns. I've come up with a double-sided full list of all of the different traits a ruler can have, and what I think I will likely end up doing, based off of their traits. There are some things I'll make for gameplay purposes, some certain decisions, but in this case, as the great Sultan Shah Rukh here, we would have taken innovative ideas. We will be building buildings if we can, and we will try and be, well, nice to our subjects, essentially. I'm not going to spoil all the possible things we'll be doing depending on each trait, but it will make for some very interesting scenarios. So, the Timurid start is pretty difficult for the AI to handle, but I think I've done a somewhat decent job here. We'll be building a larger army, and I've reduced the liberty desire of all my subjects down to 0 through relations, a couple of bonuses, royal marriages, and finally we turned Transoxiana into a march. Hopefully, if the AI manages to, continue things on the right way, then we will see the Timurids slowly annex these subjects. And if not, well, everything will just burn down. For those who don't know, Shah Rukh actually has his own unique modifier, which allows all of his subjects to have minus 50% liberty desire. He's also benevolent, which means when he dies, everyone is going to be up by 55% liberty desire. I think I've mostly negated that problem, but we're gonna find out. Shah Rukh is also a scholarly fellow, so it seems pretty thematic to give him a natural scientist. He's also benevolent, so it makes sense for him to grab a statesman. And this last thing can be just about anything. Okay, this guy is already living a lot longer than I thought he would. I've sort of just been sitting here improving relations with the subjects. We can't annex them yet, but keeping them at a high opinion will hopefully reduce their liberty desire in the future. I honestly sort of expected him to be dead already, so not exactly sure what to do here. Except of course move up in tech. Now we have the tech advantage over all of our subjects, and I don't think they'll be rebelling anytime soon. Alright, our subject has a small revolt, so we are benevolent enough to go and help them. There we go, that's been taken care of. So I guess it would finally be time for me to go and reconquest my cores. So let's go. Alright, let's stack our men up together here and go and steal this fort. Nice. Okay, 1 fort down, 1 to go. Boom, there goes the capital. Now all I have to do is get Nogai out of the war. Oh, well, there goes Shah Rukh. Unfortunate. Well, we have left him with some relatively loyal subjects, fortunately. We won't be able to finish this war, we won't even be able to peace out, because we're dead, so we can't do anything else. But I think I've left the Timurids in a somewhat decent position here. At least none of his subjects are rebelling. They will be annexable within 2 years. I hope he does that. If he doesn't, he'll probably break apart into pieces. But I guess we'll have to find out. So, let's see which ruler we get next. And it looks like we've ended up with Dagobon. More specifically, High Chief... yeah, who happens to be calm and loose-lipped, meaning we probably won't be going into too many wars, unfortunately. But we certainly will be sending a lot of insults as if we were going to. Alright, let's start off with the estates, and let's encourage divination. Now, because our leader is calm, it means we're probably not going to be fighting anyone who we have a positive relationship with. However, rivals are completely fair game. So we already have all of our claims, let's see if we can find a path to war. Also, because we are 30 years old, I imagine this guy is going to reign for a pretty long time, so we may as well get comfortable. Let's focus by getting rid of all this corruption to start with, building to our force limit, and of course a little bit of an insult every now and then. And a special one for the ones we'll be declaring on. Calm leader like ours will probably grab fort defense. Because, you know, theoretically he's not too quick to declare on anyone. We'll start off by taking care of Dahomey, then going straight to the capital of our enemy. Alright, that worked pretty well. Alright, and the capital of Dahomey falls, leading to full annexation. And now we'll just wait to siege down Oyos. Now, time to enact our first government reform. I think it's going to likely be National Manpower Modifier. Our ally wants us to help in the defensive war against Mali. That's kind of a problem. Nothing about our leader says we have to, and it's not a very good fight to pick. I think I'm gonna say no. Alright, now we can full annex this guy. And we've actually become fairly strong. But I could use a couple of rivals. I think I'll go with Bonneman and our former ally. Now, I should mention I have actually added in a sort of small rule to keep myself from just sitting here and deving a whole bunch for institutions. Rulers with the scholar and free thinker traits are allowed to simply develop for the sake of getting the institution, but most other leaders aren't allowed to do that. A province can only be as much dev as the added number of all of the provinces around it. This sort of keeps me from artificially enforcing one small province up to like 40 development when the rest are like 5 that surround it. And I don't think I'm gonna actually include uncolonized territory in that either. So that means our capital can be at most 24 development. I had to sort of strike a balance between not being allowed to develop any institutions and developing way too many. And seeing how we don't even have feudalism yet, it's probably a good idea to get started on that. Alright, well that's a little bit awkward. Our capital is not really even halfway to feudalism, and we've already reached the maximum amount that I'm allowed to dev. Which means I'll have to give 10 clicks over here and 10 clicks over here if I want to spawn feudalism. Alright, everything's been cored up. Let's go looking for a couple of allies. Wonder if maybe Congo will ally me. Well, we can Royal Mary. There we go. Boy, our chief here, really isn't even that good. If this was a normal campaign, I would definitely try and abdicate him whenever possible, or even just have him die because the queen's better. Unfortunately, if he dies, well, we have to move on to another country, so we'll have to make do with what we have, I guess. Alright, now let's bump this province up by a little bit of dev. So now our capital's allowed to be up to 34 development. Oh, conveniently there's an event to actually develop Dagbon, so I can also now go ahead and ally Messina, which will hopefully keep Mali from trying to kill me as I expand. Alright, just a couple more clicks, and I'll grab a couple of claims as well. I really didn't see this coming. Alright, never mind, Mali has decided to rival me. So that could be a slight problem. Well, Mali's currently distracted, so let's go after Mossy, and I'll call my ally in as well. Alright, stack wipe over there, and another stack wipe over here. Yeah, basically just a lot of fighting. But eventually, solid stack wipes, and we'll be done in no time. You know, as I keep going and I think about the rule I've set for this, I think I'm going to, revamp it a little bit, actually. I think I'm generally going to keep sort of the same rule, but instead of it requiring the provinces around it, it's going to require me to have all of the provinces around it owned by me, and it'll add up that development instead of just the ones that happen to surround it. Or else it's basically as if I were deving, but just more deving. It doesn't really change the fact that I'm deving the institution. But if I have to conquest before I can develop it, now that is a more interesting idea. Unfortunately, it's an idea that will never get to see to fruition, because our king is now dead. Right in the middle of this war, too. And he never got to finish the institution. So, that was a little bit, ironic. Talking about the institution, and I never even got to finish it. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I can't even click this event because that'll be spoilers for next time. So I hope you did enjoy the first episode of the Succession Crisis series. We will be back next time with another nation, maybe 2 nations, it depends on how quick the first one goes by. But for now, this is Quarbit signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day. Of course, I'd like to give a special thank you to all the people over on Patreon for the month of April. Starting with those we have in the general tier: Quiet Guy, Brendan Arsenault, Ben Greenhagen, Torvald, Dire Avenger, and Farron. Those in the Prince tier: Snow Raven, Rockbox 2020, and Robert Caleno. Those in the King tier: Chewy Shoot and Natsuki. In the Elector tier: TFLJ Martis. And in the Conqueror of Worlds tier: The Watcher. Thank you guys so much for your pledges this month, it means a lot to me.